up. So see, that's all that silver skin we were talking about. So that's just really, really chewy. Now, just under that, do this right here. Now it depends on how much time you really want to take with your meat. But I'm going to be honest. If you put this much work into shooting an animal and packing it out, you may as well get as much out of it as possible. So, pretty easy. Just go under it. It's all silver skin. It's all good burger. So see, I mean, that's all, that can all be used for burger. That's, you know, 2 tenderloins, and I just started on the backstrap, and I've already got enough to cook up a thing of steak tacos if I wanted. So, silver skin goes in the garbage. Done deal. So you can throw a little bit of that chalky fat in there. It's not going to hurt you. But ideally, less is better. It goes through the grinder a lot easier. If you like Steven Ranella, he can do all kinds of crazy stuff. He's got all kinds of tips and techniques. So I encourage you to watch Meat Eater. Some of this other fat and stuff he can use to, you know, cook up certain meals like meatballs and things like that. So you just keep pulling that apart. I mean, that's all good hamburger right there. Cut it up in 1-inch cubes, roughly. That's all fat. Silver skin. So you can see the backside, there's a lot of that. Usually what you can do, you can get a lot of that in one shot. You can kind of see the knife just under that skin. So when you're under there, if you can't see it, just like that. And try to stay as close to the lining as you can. Cut this off. Also, just so you know, this silver skin, always have your sharpener pretty handy. It'll wear this chalky fat and silver skin will wear your knife blades out real quick. So the nice thing is, a lot of people think that you need all these huge freezers and stuff. Realistically, if you got one little extra fridge or even a little freezer, you can keep your meat in it. You just got to control the temperature if it's a freezer by opening the door and stuff, but that's all just skin right there. But basically, if you just take your time and keep it small, it's not as overwhelming as you may think. Take your time, you can do it couple days, the whole thing. You could really do it in one day if you wanted to, but it's a lot of work. So what I was gonna say is, like, I take all my back straps, shoulders, debone it, and just let it sit in that fridge all day and all night. Let it age. I think USDA is still 3 days roughly for every 100 pounds. The nice thing about that is, like, when I'm done with this, the back straps, I'll just take this hamburger bucket and throw it back in the fridge and just let it sit there. until I can get to my hamburger. And some of that crusty meat you can still use for hamburger. You just need to make sure you keep it cold. Anything above 40, it's going to grow bacteria, start to rot, things like that. Anything under 32 freezes. Which makes it extremely difficult to grind. So, a sharp knife is phenomenal for getting this done. So, I might go do a live video here in a minute. Anyways, you can see how pretty that meat's turning. You can really see how good of a job you're doing as you're doing the work. That's what's awesome about doing this. You can see the whole process, where your meat comes from to the table. For a lot of you organic folks out there, it doesn't get any more organic than this right here. My phone's going ape. So like I said, you can really just take your time with these and get it done however you want. I was talking earlier about getting hair off of your steak. So, well, off your meat, period. To help keep the hair down when you're skinning the animal, don't cut into the hair, cut from underneath. So when you're skinning the animal, if my hand was the skin with the hair on top and this was the meat, don't cut with the blade down into the hide. What that'll do is that'll split all those hair follicles, and then when you start pulling it, that's how it all falls in. So if you come from underneath, right, and cut up, you'll cut very few hairs, and it'll help keep that meat clean while out in the field. Also, use your game bags for tarps. Use the hide for a tarp. All that good stuff. There's a lot of tips and tricks. You shoot enough deer, you start learning ways to do things faster and cleaner. See, that's all. That's plenty good burger right there. Takes a little bit of work, but I mean, you could full on do steak strips if you wanted out of this animal. So what I actually do, go down about 3 inches. There's other cuts too. Like, we can get into it when we pull the leg apart. You got your sirloins, right? Just like that. And then I'll use this half for like some steak strips. And then I'll start. I prefer butterfly chops. I know a lot of people don't. I also like thin steaks. Cook them rare. So I'll do about 1/2 inch. About 3/4 of the way down on the first cut. Boom, just like that. That is a butterfly tenderloin. That little hair off of there. It's a beautiful little steak. So I'll put like 3 or 4 of these in a pouch, cook them up, and that'll be my, breakfast steak or something like that, depending on what I'm doing. So there's one. Same thing. 3/4. Just like that. Now when I do my burger, I usually add about 10% pork fat. So I'll go down to the butcher and pick up a pork butt, 10-pound pork butt for every 100 pounds. The steaks, I don't really want the fat, so. Now, don't get me wrong. Some of the best meat on the animal that gets overlooked, and there's a couple ways you can do it. If you're rifle hunting, like a lot of guys, the problem with rifle hunting is they put a hole in that shoulder, and then they can't do anything with that rib cage because it bloodshots it. But I'll tell you right now, if you're ever in camp, one of the best meals you can have is fresh deer ribs right on the open fire. There's a lot of chalky, what they call tow fat, basically, and that'll kind of get stuck in your teeth a little bit. But you just wash it down with some baked beans and biscuit, you're good to go. But that's some of the best meat you can have. I always try to get a deer down before I get my elk down in camp. Now the other thing you could do is, if you didn't want to butterfly these, you could technically just cut it right down the middle. Just cut little strips, like little medallions. Now I would use that more for like a breakfast steak, if I just want to cook up some steaks. So there's a couple different ways you can do it. So like I said, this particular deer will give me enough steaks for a good half of the year, just for myself and my kid. We'll eat them together. I don't eat steak every day. Some of these smaller ones, I'll just do some medallions, just like that. Then like this last piece, like I'll keep cutting these into medallions, but like this last piece, I will literally cut real thin, just like that. That's your fajita steaks, just like that. So then I'll freeze those just like that. One package of fajita steaks. That way I know if I'm doing steak tacos one night or fajitas, just pull it out, unthaw it, marinate it. If you like them thinner, you can cut them thinner. So there's definitely some techniques you can use and utilize to get as much out of this as you want. So it really just depends on what you prefer to eat, If you don't like steaks, throw it in your hamburger pile. But if you do, well, you got plenty. Now at elk, that's where it gets really good. You get a lot of steaks off of an elk, especially if you utilize that rear hind quarter. You pull some sirloins off of there. So I'll just cut that, throw that in a burger. There you go. That's it. So you got some medallions, you got some butterfly chops, and then like I'll usually freeze 2 to 3 to 4 of them a package, you know, and then stew meat, and then that's just one steak, or that's just one strap. So we got one more we can start with, and really get a lot of meat out of this. So there'd be a little bit more on this particular one, but on one of those I pulled some fresh ones off the other day. So as soon as I had the animal down, I had to make some fresh fajita steaks. So thanks guys, we'll talk to you later.